guys. Again, welcome to GitHub. My name is Julie, and I'm a designer at GitHub, but I'm also the creator and organizer of Passion Projects, this talk series. And thank you. So today, we have all the way from New York, Sara Chipps joining us. She's the co-founder of Girl Develop It and the CTO of Levo League. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, awesome. So please join me in welcoming Sara Chipps.
Hi, everyone. All right, I'm hooking up here. How about a round of applause for Julie? I don't think I've ever seen such a well put together series in my life. That was only for points. Okay. Okay, this talk is a little bit about forgiveness, and you'll know a little more why as we go. I promise it's related. So here's a little bit about myself. I helped start an organization called Girl Develop It. We teach low-cost software development classes geared towards women. Not only to women, we have about 15 to 20% guys in our classes. We've taught 4,000 unique students so far, and San Francisco is one of our most rocking chapters. CTO of an organization called Levo League. We do career elevation aimed at Gen Y women. This is my team. I included a picture of them because they told me not to come back unless I had Heisencat and Daft Punk Cat stickers. So I thought that if you could see their faces, you could know that I really want to go back to those guys. So if anyone has any, that would be great. Or can tell me who to talk to. I'm also on Team NodeBots, which is we work together to run events where we build robots with JavaScript, and it's super fun. On July 27th, we're doing an International Day of Robots, where we're hosting a whole bunch of events. So check out nodebots.io if you want to host your own, or go to one in your area. So I was looking at XKCD the other day, and I saw this one, and I thought it was super applicable to this talk. I was like, wow, this is kind of the essence of the things that I want to talk about. Like the things that we all think are unique to us, things that we just don't share with each other, but we're all constantly thinking about. So I'm going to introduce you to a couple products. One of them is a 3-minute video. Please bear with me. It's going to be my face that's really big on the screen again. So yeah, let's just start that part. Okay. Hi, my name is Sara Chipps, and I'm a software developer. I've been working for over 10 years now with companies you've heard of and some that you haven't, to bring great experiences to the web. I'm a JavaScript developer, and I work with early-stage startups, helping them to design, build, and deploy their first web applications. I also co-founded an organization called Girl Develop It. We do low-cost software development classes geared towards women. We've taught over 1,000 women how to code, and we're in 7 cities around the world. I spend a lot of my time online. I'm often doing things like writing emails and listening to music, or watching a movie while I'm coding, or sitting on IM and also DJing in a turntable FM room. I get frustrated when I have to move between tabs every time I want to try to do something different. Usually I'm only interacting with a very small part of my screen, and the rest is a bunch of ads and white space and stuff I don't need. During a recent love affair with building browser extensions, I learned a lot about the inner workings of the modern browser. I learned that they were built the way they are because Windows used to need to be square. I thought, why can't the browser take the shape of its functionality? And so Vasilia was born. Vasilia is a browser that is chromeless and dynamically shaped. It allows for designers to create any interaction they can imagine online, and it leaves navigation up to the developer. It also leaves us the rest of our screens. Why not listen to a movie and do your taxes at the same time? Or send emails while you're DJing in a room on turntable FM? Why download and install an expensive image editor? where I could use an online version that could be updating constantly, bringing me the best content. The internet has changed our lives by making everything accessible. I believe the internet was never meant to be square, and Vasilia lets us take browsing to the next level. I'm bringing this project to you, the people of Kickstarter, instead of going to pitch investors, so that Vasilia can start and stay an open source project. The Vasilia source code will live on GitHub, so developers around the world can learn from it and make it better. Supporters will be able to track our progress through our blog at getvasilia.com, where we will be posting bi-weekly updates. Thank you for your time and your support. I'm looking forward to building a better internet with you. Okay, that was Vasilia. I appreciate the one person that tried to clap. That was good. Okay, so next up, I want to show you guys something else. This is OctoCatMe. It is I'm a big GitHub fan, if you guys can tell. OctoCatMe uses facial recognition software to recognize features on your face when you upload a picture. So if you're male or female, if you have a beard, if you're wearing glasses, how long your hair is, those kind of things. And then what it does is it makes an Octocat that looks like you. It gives you like a PNG of a cute Octocat that looks like you. This is Concept Camp. This is a fun camp for developers where we all go camp outside and do chalk talks. So it's kind of like glamping where there's outlets and things. You bring your laptop, and people that give talks talk about more concepts than code. And it's a great time for developers to get together and just kind of hang out and learn from each other. So these 3 projects I've shown you, I promise this for a reason. They all have something in common. So these are all things that I worked on for a long time. Things that I spent over 100 hours on, things that I worked for weeks on, and all of them failed. None of them went anywhere. None of them even saw the light of day. We actually did have Concept Camp one year. It was really fun. But besides that, these were all things that I worked on that never went anywhere, and things I invested a significant amount of my time on. Why did these projects fail? Because they failed. I wanted to give you guys a graphic here, but don't search for fail on the internet, because you'll get a million pictures. But they failed for lots of reasons. They failed because things got hard and I stopped caring. They failed because I got a full-time job and I no longer could focus on them. They failed because the people that were working with me just didn't want to do so anymore. Lots of different reasons, but that's not why I'm giving this talk. I wanted to talk about forgiveness. And the reason why I want to talk to you guys about forgiveness is because it's something that's really important to me. When Julie told me the name of this series, I was really excited because passion projects are all I do. It's, you know when you were in high school and you read books and every character had a fatal flaw? Well, my fatal flaw is that I can't work on things that I don't care about deeply. And everything I work on, I really love. So when I walk away from something or I'm not successful at something, it's difficult for me to move on to something else because it's hard to forgive myself for failing. And I think that's something that we all experience. So I wanted to share some of the wisdom I've gotten from failing a whole bunch of times and being able to move on. So the good news is there's lots of people that do this, and lots of people have failed at things. In fact, people that we really admire often fail at things. On Sunday of this week, I was putting this talk together, and I was like, well, it would be really great if I can talk about people who have like famous names, like people you would recognize, about their failures. So I put together an email and I sent it to everyone that I consider a role model. And a funny story, I actually sent it like at 6 p.m.-ish. And then by 11 p.m. I hadn't gotten any answers, so I was like, oh my goodness, like this is my first failure. I just told all my role models that I'm a huge failure and they didn't answer me. But it turns out it takes at least a day to tell people about your failures. So the next day I got a whole bunch of answers, and I wanted to share some of the things that I found out with you. So Chris Williams is someone I look up to a lot. He made JSConf, and I think he's really awesome. He has made a conference that's probably, definitely one of the top 3 best conferences I've ever been to. A great environment that's really open to families. There's kids everywhere. There's spouses everywhere. It's about getting together with developers and just spending time. It was a really enjoyable experience. He told me the story of JSConf 2009. It was the first time they did it. And he decided to do a conference just like out of the blue. His wife was into it, and they planned this whole thing. They put it online. They got all the speakers. They booked a venue. They paid. They gave a down payment for the venue. They knew there was no JavaScript conference. They were going to do one. It was going to take off. It was going to be awesome. So after doing all these things, getting the site up, they started doing publicity around it, asked their friends to email and tweet, and they sold no tickets. No one wanted to go to this. It was like a month after they opened up tickets, and they hadn't even sold enough to cover the down payment for the venue. So basically, they had put this money out of pocket, and they were going to cancel their conference. So he was headed to the venue to like ask for their deposit back, be like, there's still a little time. Can we have our money back? We're not going to end up doing this. And before they left, he changed the invite to say it was selling out. It was almost sold out, and he tweeted it. And then they left. And he said that the whole way in the car, him and his wife were like arguing, like, why'd you do this? You thought it was a great idea, and your friends would come, and no one's coming, and all those things. They're headed to the venue. They get out of the car at the venue. He looks on his phone, and they had a waiting list. Like, they had sold all the tickets on their way to the venue. And he said that that was a real lesson. And a lot of people shared some wisdom, so I'm just going to read these verbatim. He said, I would extend from your target point and say that the greatest risk is often met with the greatest trials, but the combination of the risk and trials are what make the reward result the sweetest. Thought that was neat. Neil Capel is someone else I think is pretty awesome. He founded the company SailThru. They have a email API for like mass emailing. So I emailed him and was like, can you tell me a little bit about your failures? I want to talk to people about failures. And he sent me a laundry list. So in 2000, he made a real-time booking software that was for golf courses. I don't know what it means by worked over dialed up at both ends. I can't really imagine, but I mean, that sounds tedious. Flash page turner for catalogs, Dropbox application with version control, page flakes, Firefox plugin that auto-completed and validated for entry. This is a lot of things. And the wisdom that he shared was that his main learning from all of them was don't try and keep a job and do a startup at the same time. Very few people can manage that to success, which is pretty valid. But I think another thing to notice is that he did all those things and kept going and made SailThru after all those things went poorly. Joel Spolsky, he shared a story about CityDesk. I don't know if anyone I had never heard of CityDesk. But it's a content management system that was built on Windows. Basically, he said they sold a handful of copies of it, so they focused a lot of their resources on it. And to quote him exactly, to this day, my blog is still locked up in this fakakta software. Just the first time I've heard that word in a long time. Which I thought was neat. And so something that he said that was a surprise was, I think about 60% of the things we tried at Fog Creek either failed or didn't work very well. Which is really surprising because we only see the things that go really well, right? It's funny, I also reached out to Jeff Atwood and he said, too bad for you, I've never failed at anything. So that was that was that. Some people are perfect, apparently. So Mark Headland is someone else I really look up to a lot. He is the SVP of product development at Etsy and engineering. He made a web app called Wasabi quite a few years ago, and it was kind of a mint.com type competitor thing. It was like a financial, you import your finances and it gives you, it's predictive and things like that. And they shut down in 2010. And I actually took this from a blog post that Mark pointed me to that I thought was great. I put the link in the slides, and I'll put them up on my blog afterwards because it's a great blog post, and it's really good self-exploration of a failure afterwards. And he said, I don't agree with those who say you should learn from your successes and mostly ignore your failures, nor do I agree with those who obsess over failures for years after, as I have done in the past. I'm hoping that by writing this all out, I can offload it from my head and hopefully help inform other people who try and start companies in the future. That can be cathartic. So this is his link. So like I said, why did my projects fail? This isn't so important as much as being able to move on from your failures and being able to forgive yourself. One thing I think demonstrates that all these people were able to move on is that they were okay with the fact that something failed, and it didn't make them say, all right, well, this failed, I don't know that I want to do this again, or I don't want to go through this again. They failed, and they readily were like, all right, well, then I'm going to do something else. That sounds super neat, but how do you, like, just saying forgive yourself, that sounds really nice, right? But it's not so much like a how-to. So I spent a lot of time and thought about how I got to the point where I felt I could forgive myself, and I have some tips that I'm just going to share. So I have a couple mantras that I like to live by that I may have made up or read somewhere and forgotten. So I'm pretty sure I wrote this, but I don't know. So I think your life is about getting to know yourself, right? We're stuck in these bodies for as long, 60, 70, 100 years, whatever. And we're stuck in these brains. And the more we can take time to learn about ourselves, learn about what we're good at, what we're bad at, what we enjoy, what we like being surrounded at, what stimulates us, what like squashes our creativity. When you learn these things about yourself, you can just improve on the next iteration. I spend a lot of time focusing on the things that I'm good at and the things that I'm bad at. A lot of those things are obvious, right? You know what you're good at. Also, I found that when separate people in different environments gave me the same feedback 3, 4, 5 times, I don't take it as fact, but I say, there's some truth in this. I'm hearing this from a lot of different people, and it must mean they're noticing the same thing. And while that might not be the exact thing, there's something to be taken from this wisdom. So strengths are the best part, right? Like the things that we're good at. Just to share some of mine, in case you were wondering, I've been told I'm good at being gregarious. I really like rapid prototypes, so thinking of something and building it really quickly, just the V1. I'm really good at V1. Implementing big ideas. There's not many things that can scare me. Twerking. Weaknesses. The second best part or the worst part. Things that I consider to be some of my weaknesses are listening. I tend to be one of those people that talks when there's quiet. People that doesn't let quiet happen. I've learned that some other people don't talk unless there's been quiet for a little while. So often, I'm not listening when I'm talking to people because I'm just talking the whole time. So it's something I've been working on for a little while now. I'm terrible at emailing. It's not that I get a lot of emails because I'm super popular or something. I'm just really bad at it. And a lot of times I'm like 3 weeks behind on my inbox. It's something that is constantly a stressful situation for me. Implementing new procedures and following procedures. Things like that kind of make me crazy. Even people that are good at this sometimes make me crazy. I always call it like the Michael Scott and Toby relationship. Like when I talk to like accountants and things, I'm like I can't even listen to you. Like I want to stab my eye out. I can't even, like the things that you say, it's awful. Also bad at spelling. That's really how I spelled procedure the first time. So I was like, I'm just going to keep it and say I'm bad at spelling. So let's take a deep dive into weaknesses and what we can do about them. I think there are 2 different types of weaknesses.
The first kind are things that you are bad at that you don't want to be good at. These are things that you're bad at that you don't care. This is fine, I'm bad at this, I'm gonna get on with life, I never wanna be good at this. Here are some secrets that I've learned about these things in life in general. So let the people know, especially people that you work with. Often I have a conversation when there's someone I work with that's very good procedurally where I say, hey, just so you know, this isn't my strength. I really admire that you're great at this, and I'd love to learn from you, but just as an FYI, this isn't something I excel at. It gives people some context when you're maybe not so great at it. Another tip I got recently, which is great, was from a friend of mine named Gary Chow, and he has a lot of experience with startups. I was talking to him about hiring, and he said, the best teams I've seen hire around the weaknesses of the founding team. So there's no like equation, like first you hire a CEO, and then you hire a CTO, and then you add a COO. There's none of those things. It's, you know what, our founder is bad at this, so we're gonna hire here in order for the company to be strong in general, which I thought was really neat. Try to avoid tasks that involve this particular skill. It's not really that hard. Like when everyone's like, okay, here's our new thing, who wants to do the bookkeeping? I'm not like, oh, me, because like I know that's gonna go really badly. So this is how I address the things that I am bad at that I don't wanna be good at. There is a second kind of weakness, and they are the things that you want to be good at. They're the things you're bad at that you really want to improve in order to be good at them one day. Identify them. I'm not that great at writing tests. It's not something that I really love development. I've never had a natural talent for writing tests, knowing what tests to write and when. Often I find creating action items for these things is super effective. So lately I've been pairing with people on my team that are really good test writers. And I'll say up front, hey, if we can focus on writing tests today, that would be great. That's something I'm trying to get better at. Track them. Where was I 6 months ago and where am I now? Baby steps are great. You should celebrate them. Like, it's something you're bad at. So if you improve a little bit, that's awesome, right? You don't have to go from being bad to being great overnight. It's gonna take a long time. And never stop iterating on it. Have the next step ready. Like the next thing I want to do once I feel better about where I am is actually build an app that's test-driven. I've written a lot of tests, I've written a lot of apps. I've never started with tests, so that's what I want to do next. Okay, so that leads really well to another mantra I have. And it doesn't matter where you start as long as you are continuously improving. A lot of people are intimidated by being bad at something. It is very intimidating. But if you can look at it always like an opportunity to be better and not care about how good you are at it, it puts you in a great spot to improve. As an example, I'm on the NodeBots team. I didn't pick up an Arduino until November of last year, August. We had a team for Node Knockout, and we got the Innovation Award because we made a Christmas sweater that talked to the internet. It was super fun. But I wasn't the strongest contributor on that team. It was the first time I ever worked with Arduino. I just knew I wanted to work with it. And since then, I've worked with it a lot, and I've gotten better at it, and now I can help people at it. But I volunteered to be on this team, and I was really clear, like, hey guys, I just picked this up. It's gonna take me a little bit to get ramped up, but it was cool because it doesn't matter where you start. As long as you're really headed towards improvement, you're in a good spot. As far as heading towards that improvement that you're looking for, 15 minutes a day is the commitment that I always try to make. 15 minutes a day is just small enough to not be intimidating. I got into software in 2002, and that's where a year where we went to having a lot of jobs to having absolutely no jobs. And so I went through about 6 months that I was applying for jobs every day. And it got really intimidating and stressful, and I committed to myself, I'm going to apply to 5 jobs every day. It's gonna take me 15 minutes. I'm not gonna do more, I'm not gonna do less, and if I miss a day, I'm not gonna do double the next day, just 15 minutes a day. And that was a really effective way for what turned out to be like over 100 job applications before I found something without getting too stressed out. Make something you want to be good at your side project. All of my side projects are Arduino based now. I hope that most of them don't fail. If you can spend your free time doing something exciting that involves what you want to get better at, it could be really motivating. And then again, forgive yourself for being shitty at sometimes at things. We're all human beings. We're all bad at some things. None of us are Superman yet. So it's okay, you know. Just like the comic said, you know, we're all thinking about this. We're all thinking about the same things. We're worried about the same things. We're just as concerned as each other, noticing those things. It's time to be okay with being shitty at things. So forgiveness has some anti-patterns, some things you need to catch yourself doing that don't allow you to forgive yourself. A big one is jealousy. For example, I'm a huge fan of James Halliday. I think he is amazing. However, it's really easy to see people that you admire and make quick judgments, quick jealous judgments about how they got there. Saying things like, oh, you know, like, I bet he only does this, you know, he probably doesn't have a full-time job, you know, like, he really, he probably just spends all his time writing modules, and like, I can't do that, I have a job, so I totally get that he's better than me, that's fine. So something I've learned about this year is really exciting. It's called the Hebbian Theory. I'm not going to read all this to you. Feel free to read it out loud. I mean, read it to yourselves, or read it to yourselves, actually. That'll be disruptive. It basically means that too long didn't read, cells that fire together wire together. What it means is your brain changes its architecture based on how you usually think. So you can train your brain to learn new behavior. Right? Because if you think in the same, if you have the same reaction every time you go somewhere, it becomes in your head, it becomes easier every time. So if every time I look at someone that I think is talented, I react by being jealous, it's going to become easier and easier to react with jealousy. But you can train yourself not to go there. I did that a long time ago with this exact emotion, and it was really effective for me, and now my head never goes there. I take a step back after I have that jealous thought, and I'm like, wait a second. Let me think of 5 amazing things about this person. Obviously, Substack's amazing. He's built probably the most node modules in NPM. He's an amazing JavaScripter, a great developer, someone I really look up to and I think is awesome. And so thinking in that way, even if it means that, hey, I'll never be this person, I'll never be that great, I'll never contribute those things, it allows you emotionally to say, that's okay, it's fine, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do other things. This person is amazing and I shouldn't forget that. Another forgiveness anti-pattern is thinking things are done. Thinking of done as a concept even. There's that Facebook poster that everyone steals and now has in their office. At least that's what we did. Done is better than perfect. I disagree. I don't know that there's any such thing as done. Often the best time to get feedback is when things are half finished or a quarter finished. I remember listening to some podcast somewhere where they were interviewing John Resick about jQuery, and they were like, what would you have done differently if you could do anything differently? He's like, I would have showed people much earlier. I would have gotten people involved much earlier. I had to learn so many things the hard way because I thought something was best a certain way, and I built it that way, and then someone smarter than me came along and said, nope, that's probably not the best way to do it. So I think it's really important to involve people super early on in your projects to say, what do you think about this? Like, what's your feedback? And it can get them excited, which in turn gives you more inertia. Keeping score. I hear that all the time. I hear, and I'm sure you guys do as well, oh, you know, I didn't go to school for computer science, or, oh, you know, like, I'm not really good with computers, and all those things. And that's just software development. Every time I think about keeping score, I think about, there's this group of, there's like this demographic in our Girl Development classes. It's like women that are like 50 plus, Like we've had like 70-year-old women come take girl developer classes, and they are so into it, and they're the most dedicated students. I will take them anytime over younger students. They always find each other and they make study groups. It's the weirdest thing. Every class that I had women in that age bracket, and men in that age bracket as well, they would find each other and get together after class or like during the week and study together. I guess that's like a lost concept that we don't really do anymore. But that was really neat. But they were so motivating, right? Like, you're 60, like, why do you need to learn how to build software? They just weren't intimidated by it. And there's no such thing as too old or not good enough for any of those things. Here are some facts that I found on Wikipedia. But here's one that, so I was working on this last night in my hotel room, and I was watching, I think that David Letterman was on. It was just like the TV was on for noise. I don't watch David Letterman. And this woman was on, and she was telling the story. She was like a pretty popular singer in the 60s, and then her kind of like, she gave up on her career, and like she got irrelevant, and she said that a few years ago, she was literally cleaning a bath. So she started doing house cleaning, like to make money. She was so far away from this world and this environment that she started cleaning houses. And she said it was about Christmas time, and she was literally cleaning a bathroom when she heard her song play, like at the house, like a song that she had sung on the record player, the place that she was. And she was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And so she just dedicated herself and got back into it, started singing again. And last night she was on David Letterman, so that's cool. Okay, now you guys know everything, so you can go and forgive yourselves. This is awesome. I realize that it's not that easy to say, all right, I need to get over my failures and move on. I spent a lot of time in thought about how I got to this point, like how I realized that that's something that I can do, and that was something that was important. And so I think I identified where my behavior like this started, and it has a lot to do with the mouse over for that XKCD. It was when I had a weird high school situation. So the first time I took calculus was my freshman year at school. And it's the first time that I took a class that I was like notoriously the kid that like didn't study, didn't do homework, did great on tests, and just kind of like floated by, right? And so I did that for every class up until calculus. I took Calc 1, and I just like failed it fantastically. I was like, this is really hard, and you know, I'm super smart, so this shouldn't have happened, and I need to, I'm gonna do it again. I'm totally gonna be fine at it. I probably just wasn't paying enough attention. So I wasn't able to say like, okay, it's okay, I'm not that great at this, I'm gonna do better. My attitude was like, oh, you know, obviously this was the wrong teacher, so just do it again, and I'll be fine this time. And so I took the class again, and about halfway through the class, I was failing spectacularly again. And I went to see my professor to talk to her about why things were going so poorly, because I was still mind-boggling for me, because you know, like what had happened, what was she doing wrong? And so I sat down with her and I talked to her, and she said probably the best thing she could have possibly said to me. And she said, Sarah, it's so okay. You know, some people aren't made to do like the science and math careers. Like my husband's like that. It's totally fine. You could just accept it. And I was like, so I had to do like a Hail Mary for the next 3 weeks. I had to get I had 2 exams left, and coming from like failing like 5 exams in a row, I had to get A's on both of those in order to not fail the class. So I realized that like I had to put my pride aside and say, hey, this might be something that I actually have to study and actually have to learn. So I sat there for the next 3 weeks straight, didn't do anything but calculus, and I passed that class. And I think that was a huge lesson for me to say, to be able to forgive myself for being bad at something in order to be good at it. So that's my anecdotal story, and that's my talk about forgiveness. Yeah.
So, lots of questions. I think the leading one for me is always, how did you get into computers? Like, what was your like aha moment?
So is this good? When I went really close, it was really loud. So we go like this. When I was, I got asked this question a lot because everyone's like, lady coder, let's talk about it. But I think it's great. I think it's good to like talk about this stuff. I was just explaining why like I have a story ready. So when I was younger, I was homeschooled until high school. My parents are pretty religious, so that was something that was super important to them. I'm from a generation of people that became software developers because they were losers. Like I didn't have any friends when I was little, but I had a computer, and it was a way for me to talk to people. I had a BBS. Do you remember BBSs? Yeah. I was the co-sysop of a BBS. If you know how important that is, it's really important. So I just know I really enjoyed it. My parents had this like 286. It cost $3,000. I remember going to like a computer place and they put it together and it was like a whole big ordeal about like, we're gonna build this computer for you. It was like so expensive. And then I just used to tie up our phone line like all day and get really mad at my mom when she picked up the phone and ruined everything. And then when I got a little older, I went to high school and I took a C++ class, and it was like the first time that I found something that just made sense to me. Like I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is like how my brain works. It makes so much sense. So I went. After that, I went to Penn State and studied computer science, and now I've been doing it for 11 years. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. So you talked a little bit in your talk about you have like basically an emailing list for the people who inspire you or the people you look up to. Yeah. How do you find someone to mentor you? Like, what was that experience like for you?
So it's one thing about the software community that I try to get the word out there is that the men in this community are super supportive. I've experienced people just bending over backwards trying to help me in my career. They do a few things. So I've met a lot of male software developers that are like, you're a lady coder? I know another lady coder. You guys should be friends. Which is always great. But also another thing that they do, they're always open for advice and sharing and just kind of talking about giving me feedback about my career. So that's something that I've been really fortunate to experience, is just like a collective of people who have been like cheering for me the whole time.
That's awesome. Great. Yeah. That's perfect segue, because the next question was, how do you ask for feedback? Like, how do you solicit feedback from the people that you want to hear it from? I've gotten to the point where I'm really frank about it. Like, recently there was a conference that I applied to speak at and I didn't get chosen, so I emailed the conference organizer, who's a personal friend, and I was like, hey, listen, no bad feelings, like this is totally fine. You've put together an amazing lineup. I would just love some feedback from you about why I wasn't selected. You know I gave a talk there last year. I know it was kind of like meh. Can we talk about like what the selection process was? So I ask people all the time. That's awesome. Cool. So Vasilia,
yeah.
And obviously OctoCat Me and a couple other projects. You're really well known for like open source projects, right?
I've done a couple. They're okay.
Yeah. What was your first open source project?
My first open source project that I ever contributed to was a. Does everyone remember WPF, which was like a Microsoft thing? So there was a Windows Twitter client that some friends of mine had worked on, and that was my first contribution to open source. I remember I built, what feature was it? Was something about, threading. That's an important, it was like threaded tweets, which was new and important at the time, so that was exciting.
That's very awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And like how much do you contribute to open source now that you have a full-time job? And
yeah, that's something that's really suffered in my life, so that's something I really want to start working on again.
Awesome. So you started a few projects. You now work at Levo League. I'm assuming you've worked for companies as just an employee. What was the leap like from starting, or from going from employee to sort of like a leader, like on the founding team, or being a C-level executive, like at a startup or a company?
Right. So before I joined Levo League, I was contracting for like 3 years, almost 4 years. So I hadn't had a job in a really long time. And I didn't want a job, like, at all. I slept till 2 every day, and I worked like 15 hours a week, and that was great. But I just kind of fell in love with the people at Levo. They were my client, and I just kind of fell in love with them and what they were doing, and I really believed in it. The difficult thing for me has been being someone's boss. A lot of times when you have a lot of experience as a developer and people appreciate you as a developer, they're like, I know, let me put you in charge of other developers. And those are like very different talents. So it's been really humbling. It's been really amazing having people that I respect greatly, that are super talented, want to be on my team. There's been a lot of challenges. We really focus on, I always say that the majority of my life is spent worrying about developer feelings. Like I just want them all to be happy and really enjoy what they do. So, you know, we do a lot of things around that. We have a monthly developer potluck where we have someone come speak, and then about like the 25 or so developers come bring dinner things, and we all eat together and stuff. So the challenge was, to answer your question, the challenge was being someone's boss is super difficult.
How did you come up with the idea? You started Girl Develop It with Vanessa.
Yeah.
How did you guys know each other already? How did kind of Girl Develop It come to life?
It was one of those situations where we both had like a mutual friend, our friend Tom, who was like, lady coder, other lady coder, be friends. And it was great, it was awesome. She's a wonderful person, and we had conversations about how we always felt super weird when we went to talks, or like when we had like computer science classes. And it wasn't because anyone made us feel weird. It's just weird when you're like the one woman and there's like 100 guys and you have a question and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm like identifying my entire gender if this is stupid. This is like, I don't even want to ask this question because it probably is stupid. I have no idea. And so we were like, wouldn't it be great if there was like a place where you could go, just like where you were like, you have to ask a stupid question, like really encourage people to ask stupid questions. So yeah, that's how it got started, and we scheduled a class and it sold out and really quickly, and then snowballed from there.
That's awesome. So you said that you welcome male students as well, so it's not just like it's female focused, but it's more like inclusive to everybody.
Right.
Like
exactly.
how has that worked as far as like messaging to people that everyone is welcome?
Yeah, well, like it's worked out great because guys need that too sometimes.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times there's these things that are like characteristically female, like ladies have trouble negotiating. But guess what? Guys have a lot of trouble negotiating too. You know, like it's hard for everyone, and like everyone needs an environment where they won't be judged.
Sure, we have that discussion at GitHub a lot actually as we've grown. Is a lot of it tends to be sort of like a women-focused conversation around like not being aggressive, but there are a lot of people with like quiet personalities who are also men. It's not, you know, being sensitive is not something that's specifically prescribed to women. It can come up in a lot of other people's personalities also, and so just kind of also creating that environment that it's not necessarily the loudest person who wins the argument, or you know, you can also have different personalities at your company or people you work with, and it can be like sort of a safe environment for everyone, which is kind of what it seems like you created at Girls Develop It, which is really awesome. How many cities do you know now that have Girls Develop It classes?
I think we're at 22.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And have you like gone on Sara Chipps World Tour yet?
No, but that sounds awesome. I'm so in for it.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. So you mentioned like a whole group of your mentors or people you look up to. Like, is there like one specific person who's really helped you in like the last 10 years? You don't have to you don't have to say their name if you're not comfortable with it, but is there one person you really look up to and who has helped you make decisions?
Well, in the past year, I was actually just having this conversation. Mark Hedlund, the SVP at Etsy of Product and Engineering, he sat down with me about 8 months ago and just like for an hour just gave me all this wisdom
that like carried me for so long. Like things like, don't forget that you're someone's boss. And like, if you don't say hi to them in the morning, they think you're mad at them. Not like, they don't think, hey, you're in a rush, you have to go to a meeting. Everyone takes things super personally. And ask team members about other team members to see how they're doing. Like, you can get insight about your team and also how that employee is doing and stuff like that. And that was super effective for me. So most recently, it's been Mark.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've met Mark as well, and he is an amazing person and awesome guy to have in your life. I was going to ask this about girl development. No, this is bad. I'm not supposed to be the one that's nervous and wrecked.
I'm going to drink some GitHub beer.
Yes, this is not GitHub beer actually, but I figured we shouldn't give away free branding, so there we go. That's that. Oh no, I had such a good question for you. Moving on. What do you think? You said that you felt weird when you would show up to drink ups or meetups or conferences and be the only woman there. Like, do you still feel weird, or like has it changed in the last 5 to 10 years for you? Like, what's the difference?
So it's funny that like now I'm like really weird in super diverse groups. Like I'm like, I don't know what to do. You're not all guys. But I mean, things are getting a lot. Like I said, I was just at JS Conf and like there were a ton of ladies there, really awesomely. It was really great. So I'm always excited when I see things like that. But yeah, I've just gotten kind of used to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
There are a ton of ladies here, by the way. Which is,
that's great.
Really,
I've seen that.
Really cool.
I saw the list in the bathroom.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Cool. Does anyone else have questions for Sarah? No questions. Okay. Jake, yeah.
Talking about, you asked her about the first open source project that she had. Can you like talk more about that? Because I've had it was really like intimidating thing for me, like before the first time I ever done that. And I feel like it's like you're interested in open source, but you're like, I want to contribute. Or what do I do? Or you might not be like, but yeah, these things like you're like, what should I do? How do I figure out what to do? Like, how did that help you?
Yeah. I was pretty handheld through it, to tell you the truth. It was one of those situations where I complained about the feature not existing, and they were like, well, how about you build it? And I was like, that seems hard. And they were like, well, we'll help you, and that was awesome. But I always tell people to find a smaller project. Like, don't go into the deep end first. Like, find something small that you can contribute to. Get to know the people that are building it. Ask them questions a bunch so they know it's you. And yeah, don't feel weird about people criticizing what you did, because that's part of learning. So, yeah.
Awesome. So is there a specific thing that you do to kind of deal with maybe like an overwhelming amount of feedback or criticism? Like, how do you manage that? Because now you've worked on so many different projects with, I'm assuming, a diverse group of people. How do you manage that now?
Well, the thing I get criticized most now is that we do at the office, we do pull requests in order to merge with master. So we like do a pull request and everyone knows, and then everyone looks and tells you everything that you did wrong, which is great. But I mean, like, it just, especially because this is something I'm like emotionally invested in, I really appreciate it, because I'm like, oh good, nothing's going into master that's bad, right? Like, I guess I've just learned to roll with it. I just kind of expect it now.
Yeah. How much of your day is split between like meetings, because you are like C-level exec there, between like meetings and actually like coding?
Yeah. So that's actually been a real challenge lately. Where I was just doing so many meetings that I wouldn't take features because I would end up like clogging up the timeline, right? So I would take bugs, and then even like those bugs would take a while to get fixed because I didn't have time to focus on it. So actually, that's something that I've spoken to our CEO and some other people, and that we're working on. Because right now we have some pivots, like. And the pivots are pairing with people. I'm like, I want to pair the pivot so bad. But yeah, actually, in the past 2 weeks, I've been able to spend like 2 solid days pairing and much more time coding. So that's been awesome.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And how important do you think that is for your happiness? Like, I know you talk a lot about making sure that everyone on your team is happy.
Yeah.
How much of that do you have to kind of like reserve for yourself?
Yeah, it was so energizing. Like, I just realized that I was just drained. And even just the first day I was back, it was so energizing. Yeah, it was really great. And I think it affects the entire team that way too, because, like, they don't, everyone doesn't like seeing someone on the team that's like always in meetings. So yeah, it was awesome.
That's awesome. If you were to start learning how to code now, where do you think is like the best place for someone to start? And not just with code, just if they wanted to learn more about sort of like either the startup community or coding or designing or any of those things, like where would you tell someone to start?
Well, like obviously I always say girl develop it. But yeah, there's like a ton of stuff like that out there. There's a ton of meetups. There's a ton of beginner meetups. I always tell people to start with HTML and CSS because it's like something that's pretty low level. And I always tell people to actually work on something that they want, like a blog or something like that, like get a Tumblr blog and make it your own style and things like that. Because it's really, it's a great baby step, right? Rather than like, I'm gonna build a Rails app. But like I always encourage them to go to meetups, and it's funny, it took like half of my career before I realized that there was a community out there. Like I always just thought I was gonna work with a bunch of people that I only thought were okay. They worked in enterprise for a long time, and I was like, well, this is part of it, but I really like what I do. But then discovering the community, it was like eye-opening, right? So I always tell people to go to meetups. Like there are a lot of people in your same position, and if you can find another one, it's like really validating.
Awesome. What's next for you, for maybe Levo League and also Girl Develop It? Like, what do you want to do with like the next 5 years? Or no pressure, obviously.
That's a really good question. That's something I've been spending some time thinking about recently. My latest project that I've been working on is jewelry that communicates with either the internet or other jewelry. I'm really into that. I don't think anyone has fixed the problem of fashion and technology. Like it's always something weird where you're like, yeah, that's neat, but I really never wear it.
I've seen there's this rainbow Apple keyboard dress that Adidas sells.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just like I don't see myself wearing that, but yeah, that sounds like a pretty interesting problem.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I'm excited. I mean, like I haven't solved it, but like
yeah, soon. Cool. Awesome. Well, if no one else has questions, anyone else? We will continue drinking. And I'm just going to say cheers to Sara Chipps, and thank you for like joining us all the way from New York.
Great.
And thank you everyone.